Hello, this is George Tasker, the Burma Nerd, and I am really pissed off at the moment because I just spent a whole 40-50 minutes producing another video, and when I finally finished all the recording, it was so blurry as to be unusable. And not only that, but I had the same problem I had a previous time where I had great big blacked out borders. Anyway, I think it's going to be a bit better this time. We'll see how we go. So what was I trying to talk about before? Well, I was trying to talk about the importance of trying to set your system up so that it is going to enable you to prevent yourself from, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze in a moment. In fact, I might pause for now. Okay, sneeze gone. And that was a big one too, so I really had to stop. Okay. So I was at the point where I was going to try and talk about the whys and wherefores and some of the things you should do manually with your computer if you ever get yourself a laptop that's only got one hard drive. The simple reason is that if you have one hard drive and you put all your data into one location, then you are going to lose it should you have to reinstall Windows, unless you go to somebody who's expert in dealing with these things who can recover your data. But that's going to involve paying a lot more money than you otherwise normally would expect. In my case, it's probably not such a big problem because I have a desktop and I have 3 hard drives on it. And the 3 hard drives are these. The first hard drive is known as disk 0 by the operating system or the program. This is the one that holds my operating systems and relevant data. As you can see, it's got system C here. It says a healthy primary partition, another primary partition. And these ones Windows does not recognize because they are to do with Linux. In fact, when I drop over to Linux soon, you may see the Windows partitions along with the Linux partition itself. Now this whole drive here, disk number 1, is totally dedicated to Linux. It is this partition here that is the operating system for Linux, and this down here has been set up as data for Linux. And the beauty about this is I've taken this data from other hard drives, moved it onto this hard drive. When I installed all my software, it picked up all the settings that had been sitting on this hard drive and implemented them. We then have another Windows partition of around about 2 terabytes, and it also is the second partition into which we're going to put all of our data. Disk number 2, so we've got disk 0, disk 1, disk 2, which means it's a total of 3 disks. Okay, and there's a bit of a joke about a professor who couldn't count because he always started with 0 as being his first number. But anyway, alright, so these are all set up, and we can now take a look at File Explorer. I don't know why we've got all of these pointing at OBS, but anyway, that's beside the point. So we're going to go to this PC. You'll notice here that if we go down here, we can see there's a system drive and a data drive. And if you take a look down here, you'll see you've got system and data. Now the way that you name your drives is you click on it, right click, go to properties, then you'll type in the name just in that location under the General tab. And you can do the same with the drive that I have chosen to label data. Go to Properties, and then you'll see there it is, data. Now the thing that I wanted was, previously all of these fellas were pointing at C drive, all of them, and I wanted some of them to be moved across to D drive. So that's what I proceeded to do. If you take a look now, you'll see that D drive has got 3D objects, documents, downloads, music, pictures and videos, and it's got the appropriate icons. If you don't get the right pointer, it will just look like these little yellow folders here, and that's what they were doing before. So let's take a look here at 3D objects. So we click on it, right click, Properties. We then click on Location, and as you can see it is now D 3D objects. Now if I were to hit Restore Default, it would immediately point it back to C drive. I don't want it to be on C drive because that's where the operating system sits. And if I want to reinstall the operating system, it's going to clobber this directory and all of the other data directories because they're on the same partition. I don't want that to happen, so I farm them out to a second partition, and that's what I am doing. When I get a laptop, I am actually dividing it up so as it looks to the system as if it is multiple drives. So you would see a C drive and you would see a D drive, even though you'd only had the one hard drive. Okay, so we're at 3D objects. Now if you take a look at desktop, I'm going to show you this because this shows you the drive it was initially pointing to. So desktop properties, blah blah blah, you can see it says there C uses OneDrive, and you can see in here it's OneDrive desktop, and I can't be bothered trying to change anything there. We'll go to Documents, we'll right click on it, Properties. This time we look at Location, and location is D Documents. And if we go to Downloads, Music, Pictures, Videos, they all have the same location with their respective folders. So if I were to go back into data again, you can see I've got the 3D Objects directory, Documents, Downloads. They are all in their own separate directories. And having done that, I can keep my data safe from the big bad wolf known as the operating system. And if I look at the C drive now, you can see it's got Windows, that's where the operating system itself sits. You've got program files, x86, that's for programs that are written up in 32-bit. You've got program files for the stuff that's written up in 64-bit, then a bunch of other folders that I'm not particularly interested in. Users is where you would generally expect to find all of your other stuff, and as you can see here, I'm just curious about this one. Oh yeah, location, that's interesting. It says it's still there, but I'm not too bothered about that because if I go inside there, nothing. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. What about this one? Temp. Now I don't know why it's going into there, but we may have to look into that. It could be something to do with the settings. I notice that most of the other things have already disappeared, so yeah, no dramas there. All good. This is a 2 GB file. It's probably the memory file or user settings when it gets put to sleep. Okay, so all of that data there, don't particularly care about it. Doesn't matter if it gets blown away with the Windows reinstall. So there you go, a little bit of preventative work that can be done to prevent your system from losing its data so easily. I don't know why they don't do that by default, but obviously they figure that people who put these computers together should know what they're doing, and it is something I personally would do with every computer I get hold of or get my hands on. I have done it with my son's computers, my daughter's computer, all of their computers have done the same thing on, and the number of times the fellas have had their computers completely go belly up and we've had to reinstall Windows and their data is still there, it's still safe. So it is something that is worth doing. Alright, that's it. George Tasker, the Boomer Nerd, over and out.